Every time I get inspired, that's when I intend to do these videos. Whenever I get an inspiration from somewhere. And this inspiration is coming from this guy. His name is Patrick Lumumba. Um, he served on the Kenyan Anti-Corruption Committee, I think from August 2010 to September 2011. And he's also a Kenyan lawyer. And he said something that was very interesting to me. He said that politicians, those in power, tend to have what is called a Jehovah complex. They believe that they alone hold all wisdom and nobody else has any wisdom. And I found that very inspiring because sometimes we do tend to believe that only our leaders have the answers, and it's a barrier to innovation. It's a barrier to creativity amongst the people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I think, because they put so much hope in their leaders and don't have any feel like some don't have any hope in themselves. But what is inspiring is that he recommended this book, and the book is called Black Africa, the Economic and Cultural Basis for a Federated State by this physicist. His name is Cheikh Anta Diop. Cheikh Anta Diop. And again, the book is called Black Africa, the Economic and Cultural Basis for a Federated State, where he pretty much suggests things that he thinks can work in Africa. And I thought maybe some of these things can also work in St. Vincent. So I'm just going to go through the list and talk about things that I think could possibly work in Ireland. So number one on the list, I think there needs to be more women in Parliament, more representation for women. I think there need to be more rights for women, and I think there needs to be greater safety nets for the vulnerable population, women who have been in abused relationships, children who are vulnerable to abuse. Because I was reading this report by the United States Department of Justice. And they have these rating systems. I think it's from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3. And I think tier 1 is those who comply to make sure the country is working on preventing trafficking of persons. Simmons fell in tier 2. So far, the report said the government has been doing some things to help alleviate that and help to probably, but I wish we can get into a better tier where Siminsu is not seen as a place where trafficking happens. But what I came across is this profile. They have this trafficking profile that pretty much tells you what happened in St. Vincent. And I was reading, and it says observers report some parents and caregivers exploit their children in sex trafficking in order to generate income. Yeah, that's really bad. That doesn't represent the country well. It's in the U.S. Department of Justice, so I'm not making these things up. And people read these things. Investors read these things. And if an investor was to read something like this and see that even parents are involved in trafficking of their own kids in order to generate income, I don't know what kind of picture it can create for St. Vincent. I know we like to say that people in the diaspora give St. Vincent a bad name, but I think some of it is on you. Some of it is what is happening in the country, and it just makes its way to the news. Sometimes it's not even anybody in the diaspora who's saying anything about it. It just makes it to the news, and it's pretty embarrassing, and you have to spend your whole time trying to defend it. So I think we definitely need to work on creating a greater safety net for the vulnerable, especially the young girls and the young boys, and to make sure they don't make it into these places where they get sold into trafficking for money, because this is disheartening. The next one I want to talk about is policies that protect Vincentian laborers from exploitation. If you guys remember, the Buchanan Bay Resort, some of these guys were just working on the promise that they would be paid at some point in the future. And this is the only premise these guys were working on. They were working based on thinking that they were going to get paid. Well, some of them, they never got paid. They dedicated their lives. They believed that they were going to get paid, and they got exploited. And this seems to be something that was swept under the rug. And I need to start hearing this conversation again to address the issue of these people who were exploited in the Buchanan Bay Resort, at the Buchanan Bay Resort. We really need to start having a conversation of how these people are doing. Was there any solution provided to them? Or is there a point where they ever got paid? This is something that we need to talk about again. Like, we need to talk about the people who have suffered from bad decision making. There's a lot of people who suffer because of that, and I feel like we need to go back to these stories. So I go on to the fact that we need to start focusing on STEM education. We need to focus on the science, the technology. We need to focus on the engineering, and we need to focus on the mathematics, because the way the world is advancing right now, despite the COVID being here, people are being innovative, and I wish I saw more innovation coming out from outside from St. Vincent. I do wish sometimes I saw more innovative stuff being done, and I think that needs to be a focus on STEM education. Fair and equal pay, especially for the public service workers. They're essential workers. Like, if they decide to strike, if teachers decide to strike, who's going to teach the kids? Sometimes we tend to forget like how important teachers are, how important quality teachers are, how important that you need teachers who actually are focusing on the children and making sure that they carve out a pathway for these children to be able to carve out their own pathways. So we do really need to start focusing on the public sector, because we can't do without them. There's no way we can do without the public sector. So fair and equal pay is very important in this section. I like to see a cooperative community for farmers that's subsidized by the government. And that will be something that the government can put money in. Farmers can share their resources. They can educate people who may have an interest and may be thinking about getting into farming and don't know how to go about doing it. And maybe it's a program that farmers can participate in, where they train Vincentians how to grow their own food, how to grow quality food. And I think this might help to at least solve the food crisis that we have, at least guarantee our food security, because the West is talking right now about guaranteeing their own food security. And I want the island to be able to guarantee their own food security. And we do need people who have the skills and expertise to be able to grow their own food. And there needs to be a program to help with something like that. So I think there should be more money pumped into farming. And I think agriculture science needs to be an important part of farming too. Very important for science in terms of farming. So you can be able to find sustainable farming methods. We're talking about industrialization, small scale industrialization. We do need agriculture science, not just the regular, as one of my friends, we were talking about it, not just regular going and digging a hole somewhere and say, oh yeah, that's farming. No, you need some science. I want it to be an environment where there are more entrepreneurs, people who aren't scared to venture out, people who aren't scared to break barriers. We have people who are already doing stuff. We have YouTubers. We have people who started up their own juice businesses. We have other entrepreneurs in the makeup industry, in the beauty industry. There have been Vincentians out here doing their things on YouTube, and I do tend from time to time to watch them. So there's a lot of untapped potential in St. Vincent, and I wish there could be more focus on providing programs to increase entrepreneurship in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because I think a nation where people can sustain themselves and be less dependent on the government, they can use their energy to focus on other things, like building the nation up, like investing the money in programs. We need to start empowering the people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So the last but not least, in terms of the tourism sector, we don't need to just be showing people white sand and white sandy beaches. We have more to offer on the mainland. I mean, we're talking about like ecotourism. There are lots of places that I used to go as a kid, that beautiful places that people don't even know anything about. And these are the kind of packages that we probably need to start selling in order to get people to come to the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The black sand, the different terrains in St. Vincent. Have arranged tours. Maybe you guys probably need to start exploring the option of probably legalizing recreational marijuana for the tourists and for the islanders too, if they want it. I think it's a good idea, because you cannot compete in this marijuana market right now. It is very saturated. It is best that you focus on yourselves. So that was my last suggestion. Now I may have different suggestions from time to time to come, but this is all I have. And like I said, when I get inspired, I come and I make videos because I want to see my country do well. We cannot be at the bottom. You cannot be at the bottom. The Caribbean region itself is already laden with debt. You know how much debt the Caribbean has? Lots of debt. And I need folks to stop talking about that St. Vincent doesn't have any resources, much resources to offer anybody, and that St. Vincent is poor. You satisfied with that? You satisfied with St. Vincent just being poor? That's it? That's it? We don't have resources, we're poor, we don't have anything to offer, we can't compete. I don't know what kind of mentality that is, but I don't think that's what we need to be telling the people. We need to tell the people the truth. We need to tell the people how important the land, the very land that they're standing on today, that the Caribs fought years to keep the British off. Eventually, they succumbed to the British, but you know how long they fought to have this rock that we're living on? And then we got our independence, and we were doing so well. We were doing so well in bananas. But the powers that be probably didn't want to see the Caribbean prosper. And that's when the banana industry starts suffering. But I think there are other things that St. Vincent can do to boost itself up. We have tons of resources. We have the oceans, we have the rivers, we have the trees, we have the wind. And I'm talking about maybe an interest in renewable energy. Have you tried that? Other alternative sources of energy? I don't know. Maybe that money that was used to do the geothermal could have been invested in something else different, like solar energy, like wind energy. Because when I was in Grenada, I already see they're already starting to do that there. And by the way, food from the farm in Grenada is cheaper because the government subsidized the food, the agriculture industry. So you get cheaper food. Because I tend to see people complain about the food, the fruits and vegetables, the crops that farmers tend to sell at the market tend to be a little bit overpriced. And they're probably overpriced because the farmers are not getting a subsidy or anything like that. They're just trying to sell to try to make some money. So these are the things that I suggest for St. Vincent right now. And I wish that others who have ideas can come together and then suggest other ideas. And like I said, one Vinci to the world. No matter when you're dead and you go to heaven, you're still Vinci. One Vinci, we need to form a united front. We need to show unity in this time. We don't have time to be separated. We don't have time for this individualism that's present in this country that I'm in right now. And you can see the effects of that. So every person need to look out for the brothers and sisters and let us actually lift SCG higher. The people, it's in your hands for us to do that together. Don't worry about party politics. Don't worry about party line. It's time for you Vincentians to finally unite. It's time for everybody to start chipping in, and let's lift the island of SBG higher. It takes the people. And this is all I have for today.